So the Lord said to Joshua, "Get up. Why do you lie thus on your face? Israel has sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant, which I commanded them. For they have taken some of the accursed things, and have both stolen and deceived, and they have also put it among their own stuff." Going to stop there. I have asked you last week, and I'm sure that you have, for those of you who are Bible readers, have read in great detail. You have read in great detail chapters 6, 7, and 8, as I will be talking about this. And I believed that in introduction on last week that it would be closed out on this week. And as I was preparing on last night, it seems that God always opens up a whole new envelope to me when studying the Word of God. And it's amazing that I thought I would close this out, but it looks like I'm gonna have to take this to a part 3 on next week. In this text, as the Lord would have me to focus on this text for many of us in understanding, as we have read this time and time again, we all have been a part of ministries and churches where we have heard the Battle of Jericho being preached and proclaimed and exclaimed, and we have all heard about the walls tumbling down and all of those things. But the Lord revealed some things on last night, and I want you to just bear with me for just a few moments, because this Battle of Jericho is significant for all of us, extremely significant. It is symbolic of the things that God has done in your life that you know nobody else could do. It's when God showed up, when you knew a phone call to mama or daddy, or to your best friends, or to some family members, or to someone who had the most money, or to someone who had resources to be able to help you out in your circumstance. And this is significant that we understand that God was the one who said, "I am the only one that can save you at this time in your life. You must trust me." I'm sure all of us have been in that place, if we're not there now, where we know nobody telling us a joke is gonna make us laugh. Nobody giving us a kind word is gonna comfort us. And no one giving us an amount of money is going to cure the chaos that we're currently going through. But it is God who says, "I am your God, and it's only me that will be glorified in this." The text is very powerful in that the Battle of Jericho is in fact the very first battle that Israel has coming out of 40 years of wilderness experience. Let me say that again. It is the very first battle. It is the very first fight. It is the very first victory that they have coming out of Egypt. It's the very first one. Let me say that it's the first one. I have to be emphatic on this. It's the first one. It's important for us to know that in this, that God gave out clear instructions in chapter 6, where he said, "All the silver and gold, the vessels of bronze and iron are for me. Whatever you get from this battle, it all belongs to me." Keep in mind that as the children of Israel were coming out of Egypt, they left Egypt with no direction, no map, no GPS, but all by the leading of the Lord, as they would wander and get out of Egypt, in the place that they had been in bondage for over 400 years. And we find that they would get out and they would start to complain right away at their liberty. Start to complain, and as a result of their complaint, it would cause them to be in the wilderness that was only supposed to be for a short stint, ended up being for a generation. That God was so dissatisfied with their murmuring and complaining that he refused to allow them to go into the promised land. Yet he still promised it, but it would be their children who would receive the promise. Many of us are asking God, where is our promise? When oftentimes we really don't get. There are some things that we have negated in our own lives that we won't be beneficiaries of. There are things that we were told by God early in life that he would grant us, and we find that we have yet to receive it in our hands. But I am discovering that there are things that God is yet going to do that we can't put our finger on when it's going to be done, but many of us may as well just resolve that it won't happen in your lifetime, but he will pass it to your children or your grandchildren. We always believe that when God makes us a promise that we have to be here to see it. Ask Abraham. We don't have to be here in order to receive the promises of God. We as humans believe that when God speaks something to us that he's going to do it right in our lifetime when we expect it. This battle is important because as we are dealing with the battle of I, we must first deal with the battle of Jericho, because it is the battle of Jericho that will ultimately affect the battle of I. Told you we pronounce that word AI as AI. It is spelled AI. It is known as a heap of ruins. The city is known as a heap of ruins. It is known as a place that nothing good comes from it. My mind goes back to, again, my righteousness, as Isaiah would put it, is as filthy rags. Again, the battle of I, the battle of me, of who I think I am and who I build myself up to be, feeling as if God owes me what he said he's going to give me. And we often believe that we can call God on the carpet for what he's promised us. It's in this text that this battle is significant in Jericho, that as I read this and meditated on this last night in the dark with a little nightlight on, and I meditated and pondered over the text and chewed it down and brought it back up and chewed it down. It was at this moment that I understood that what God was demonstrating, he was demonstrating to many of us the tithe. This first battle was God's battle and God's victory. And God said, when you go in, I'm going to tell you how to get the victory. But when you get the victory, don't take nothing for yourself. Don't take anything. Don't take the gold. Don't take the silver. He said, matter of fact, we'll go beyond that. Don't take of the accursed. Don't take anything. Don't take anything you believe you can use. I have had a long-standing career in the solid waste industry. My career started as a garbage man on the back of a truck, going down throughout the neighborhood and picking up things that everybody threw away. And there were some things that people threw away they did not know how to work. You know, you go to the store and you buy something and you think it's faulty because it doesn't work the way you want it to, and all you didn't know was you had to hit a certain switch. I can remember some years ago at the station, these young ladies, 3 of them to be exact, showed up to dispose of a lawnmower, a Troy-built lawnmower, bright red. brand new, out of the box. It is clean and pristine. It is shiny. And me being the man that I am into machinery and tools and things like that. And as they pulled up to check in to dispose of it, I asked them, what did they have? And they pointed to the lawnmower in the back that they had just bought and said that it didn't work properly. I directed them to where to dispose of it, and they took it out. The three of them got out, took it out together, set it on the ground and said thank you and drove off. I went up to that lawnmower, fresh out of the box. Plastic is still shiny, the plastic around it is still shiny and clean, no oil, no residue, no dirt, no dust on it. I go over and I yank on the cord, and the lawnmower starts up. They have been trying to start the lawnmower without pulling the handle that chokes the fuel, not knowing that they have to hold not just the handle, but also the bar that chokes the fuel on it. And as I pulled it, it started as if it started roaring as if it was singing praises like "Take Me." As it's roaring, I'm noticing blue smoke coming out of it. Right away, it indicates to me as a mechanic that it has too much oil in it. I reach and check the oil, and the oil is all the way to the top. I turn the lawnmower over and dump some of the oil out. Pull both handles again, pull the pull string, and it roars again. And I let it run until the smoke clears away. Realizing at that moment that someone had something that they didn't know how it worked and believed that it was garbage. But here I am, the guy who's working the facility that sees this lawnmower, brand new, pristine, and it's got to be about $220. And in my mind, I'm thinking, take it with me. But there's a policy with the company. And the sign up on the pole right in front of me as I'm yanking on that chain says, no salvaging or scavenging. Which says no matter how new it is, how much you feel you can use it, you might be able to take it home and it might work on your yard. But don't you dare take it. The company says if you take it, you are subject to disciplinary action as well as possible termination. In this text, God said, whatever you get is mine. All the gold and the silver and the bronze and all of the trinkets that come in that line belong to me. And he said, just in case you get the idea of taking something for yourself, God posts up a sign and says, no scavenging. Don't take anything for yourself. He said it is the accursed thing. Don't take it. Destroy it. It's at this moment that someone decides that they are not just going to take something that they believe that works like the lawnmower, while God has said there is no scavenging when it's mine. He says this battle belongs to me. Since this is the first one you're fighting, this one belongs to me. Don't take anything. Bring me everything into the storehouse. Bring everything to me. Bring it all to the treasury. Bring all of those valuables to the treasury, and everything else I want burnt up. This is indicative of what we do. And I don't want to make this about tithes and offerings. But for many of us, we're struggling to figure out what it is that God is doing in our lives and why we can't seem to gain footing, because for many of us, we've been at this treadmill method for a long time, where we believe that the one thing we hold in our hand belongs to us, when God says what you have in your hand, part of it belongs to me. And what we have been known to do, I didn't purpose to do this, Mama, because we talked about this yesterday. What we purpose to do is we purpose to count God's portion as our portion. We take that 10% and we take it and stick it in our pocket with our 90%. And we believe our 90% is not going to cover what we want, so we got to add God's 10%. And God says, don't take of the accursed thing. You take what belongs to me, you have a problem with me. And the accursed thing is not simply it being cursed, but he says the accursed thing causes me to be angry with you. It causes me not to trust you. It causes me not to even honor you in the way that I desire to honor you, because you can't be trusted. It's in this battle of Jericho, even though they're victorious, the result is that as they're taking all of the things that God desires back for God, there's one, Achan, who believes that he can use something instead of burning it up that looks too good to get rid of. I can use that robe. I can use that trinket. The Bible says that he didn't just take of the accursed thing, which was those things that should have been burned up, but he also took gold and silver, which speaks to God's portion. Because God said, that's mine, but that stuff I don't want you to take. Achan takes that with him, takes it home, puts it away. I like this. As I read this verse, it says that in verse number 11, it says, for they have even taken some of the accursed things. And then he goes on to say, and have both stolen and deceived. He said they took it. It was mine. I laid claim on it, and they stole it from me. They stole it from me. And he says that they deceived by making it believe as if it was theirs all along. They went in believing that they had done nothing wrong. They are conducting themselves as if everything is okay. The deception of it all is believing that what we take from God, because we don't see any retribution from God, we believe that everything is okay. Y'all know how this is. Many of us have done this. I'll just say me. I'll say that I have done it, where I have gotten paid and the check was more than I expected. And I took that money and I saw it and I started counting above what all I could do. I knew what I expected to do if I got the check that I expected, but now I got more. So what I started calculating in my head was, well, if I don't pay the Lord's tithe, not only can I do what I need, I can also do what I want. And where we get in trouble is when we take what belongs to God, not to compensate for what we need, but to do with it what we want, what we desire. Y'all know you are not going to tithe today, but you're going to go out to eat. And you use God's money to tip the waiter. And it's at that moment that God is saying, okay, you're taking from me. And we believe, well, God, you don't need it. You own cattle on 1,000 hills. All of it belongs to you. You won't miss this. God is saying this is not about what I miss. This is about what I own and what I desire to keep in standing with you. He says, not only did you steal it, but you deceived. Not only did you deceive anybody else, but you deceived yourself. He says, but here's the kicker. He says, they took it and they put it among their own stuff. Y'all, when we do that, we lay claim on things that we have. Some of us can look at something now. There are things that we may have borrowed. If you go back in your mind, you have something in your house that belongs to someone else. Think about it. I know Mama Thompson, Mama Joyce are avid cookers and love to cook these great meals. And if you have had the honor and privilege of eating their meals at their homes or where they reside, you would get the great meals so much that you would get full, but you would say, I have to be able to take this home with me. And so you ask for a takeout. And them being the mothers that they are would reach for their own pots and their own bowls and their own utensils in order for you to carry what you want to take home, but then it's given with a note basically to say, I'm going to send you home with this, but don't forget to bring back my bowl. Often we forget those things. If we all go home and look in our cabinets, we have somebody else's potware in our cabinet. It's among our stuff. And it's been there so long that we start to treat it as if it belongs to us. We forget that it's someone else's. And what we have had the tendency of doing is taking things and putting it among our own stuff, and it belongs to God. And it's been there so long that we don't even put God's name on it anymore. We see it and we say it's ours. The things that we owe God, the things that we believe belong to us. Says that you took it. You didn't just take it, but you also stole it, and you were deceptive and you put it among your own stuff. Said this battle was mine. Now, here's the thing. If you've done your reading, you will know the very next battle is the battle of I. It's the second battle. And the second battle, God instructs them that everything that you get from this battle is yours. Achan saw what God had in front of him, not knowing what God was doing later, but believed that now was his opportunity to seize what he saw and believe that he may not be able to get it. Many of us see God's track record when God says, don't touch this. In your life, you might be looking at it and saying, okay, well, it's not the offering, but there are things in your life that God has said not to touch. He said there are people in your life, he says, don't mess with them. There are people in your life, men or women, that he said, nope, don't marry them. There are men and women in your life that he said, don't date them. There are career choices that we have made, don't go there. And we have longed and pleaded with God to give us something. He said, no, you don't want that. But we have begged him, and we have taken that thing and put it in our pocket, and now we own it, and now we want God to come in and rescue us from it when he said, I told you not to mess with it. Taking up the accursed thing. The part of this text that resonates more with me is knowing that God is already ahead of me. And we tend to follow God, like we are always with each other, as if God doesn't know what's further down the line. We always tend to approach God as if today is the only thing that matters. And when God says to wait, let me have that as a seed that may bless you for a long time. For many of us, as we are dealing with different variations of our lives right now, just like the children of Israel, where God had provided manna as they came out of Egypt. Prior to this, chapter 6, in chapter 5, God had been feeding them for 40 years. He had been caring for them for 40 years, covering them for 40 years, babying them for 40 years. And finally, they get to a place of destiny where God is saying, now the manna will cease. Many of us now have had a relationship with God for many years where God has held our hand. He has not allowed certain things to come upon us in our lives. And we are now figuring this out later in our relationship with God, and as we get older, that there are things that are starting to happen that seemingly does not make sense. God, it's been this way all this time. Now, why did you choose to do this at this late stage in my life? Why is it now I'm dealing with anxiety? Why am I dealing with anger? Why am I dealing with resentment? Why am I dealing with bitterness? Why am I dealing with depression at this late stage? God is saying, because I'm no longer holding your hand, the manna has ceased. It's now time for you to fully trust me, to fully trust the process in me, that I'm going to meet every need, but you're going to have to fall under my instructions. Israel, in this case, did not fully understand what God was doing and believe that this one time, Achan, who is the one, but Achan is the one who took it, but Israel suffers behind it. They end up losing the battle, even though God says Israel has sinned. It was Achan who had committed the sin. God said, if one of you sin, all of you sin. Thank God for his grace now, because whatever you do doesn't impact me. I can't say what you did affected me, because God now says, no, my plan for you was different than the plan for them. It should not affect you in the way that it affects them. There are those of us who are sitting here, those of us who are going through, and each of us, we're dealing with it differently. Some of us are embracing what God is doing and allowing, and others of us are pushing and resistant to what God is doing. I can't get past where I am in my life, all because I believe that what God is doing is so unfair. And God said that you have had a life of fairness, but now it's time for people to see the God that's really operating in your life. My mind here is always on who I am. And as people who walk in flesh, we believe that God has a responsibility in order to accommodate our flesh. Let me say this emphatically. I want to say this point blank, that there is nothing in your flesh. There's nothing that I can do to please God in my flesh. My flesh, just like AI, is nothing but a heap of ruin. It is the inside of me that God desires to deal with, not the outside. I said this to Mama on last night as we were talking, is that no matter how much we love the Lord and no matter how much we do, this flesh is going to deteriorate. It's going to break down. And when you think that your relationship is better than everybody else's, I told Mama last night, I said, isn't it amazing that even all of those powerful men and women before us that we read in Scripture, they are not here. That means we won't be here either. And when you put stock in your flesh and your own ability to have a relationship with God that you believe it will prolong your life, I'm here to tell you that it won't. That all of us must recognize that what we do, we are accountable to God. In every single way, we are accountable to Him. Achan, in this text, it takes some time for me to deal with this. Because as Achan has taken, as God whittles down and has Joshua to deal with this situation, it is not just Achan because he took it, because he was deceptive in keeping it and taking ownership and believing because he put it right in the middle of his tent. It's at this moment that Achan doesn't realize that the repercussions behind that is greater than he would ever expect to pay. Because it just doesn't filter down to him, but it's now filtering to his wife and to his children and to all that he owns. And he is now about to account for it in the greatest way. Some of us, and I don't want this to sound in a way, I know this message is one of those things where it makes you look at yourself and you say, God, what is it that I have that you want from me? What is it that I have? And I told you when looking at this text, you can look at it in the tithe, but my mind goes beyond the tithe because there's something in you that He wants from you that you have taken ownership and you refuse to give to Him. There's something in you that He put in you that He said, don't take of this because this is mine. Yeah. Maybe what we are taking is His glory. Maybe what we're taking is His praise and His credit. Maybe we're taking the notoriety and saying, God, we did it. In this battle of Jericho, it was as if they were saying, we did it and this is owed to me. But God is saying there's some things that I put in you that are reserved just for me. But you're not giving it to me. You're holding it for yourself to use with someone else. There's the love that is just for me, but you're giving that love to someone else. Therefore, you don't have enough love to give to me. You're depleted when it comes to you giving me what's mine. For those of us, when you go into prayer and you struggle with this, going into prayer and spending that time you want to spend with God, and you get into your prayer closet or your prayer position to pray, and you find that 2 minutes in, you can't even keep your attention. That you start to wander off into where you're going to go. What you need to accomplish, what you need to do. Did you turn off the oven? Did you lock the door? Is that somebody at the door? Is the phone ringing? Is there a message that I missed? And God is saying there's something in you that I want, but that other stuff got you confused. What is it in your hands? What's in your heart? What's in your mind? We talk about the physical thing and the tangible thing, but the truth is the scripture is clear that there is something within you that God says it's mine. And you have put it among your own stuff. You're saying I'll use it when I get ready to. I'll serve when I get ready to. I'll minister when I get ready to. I'll say this. I'm almost done. When I felt like the church, and I know a lot of us are in this position, a lot of people even on the line and people I've been talking to, a lot of people have pointed out the church as being the culprit of their resentment and bitterness and anger. But I know I was in that place where I said, no, I'm not going to preach. I'm not teaching. I'm not playing. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to go to church and I'm going to sit, and when it's over, I'm going to leave and I'm going to mind my own business because I got my church in for the day. But God later on was like, you think you own that? That's mine. and you owe ministry to me, not to the church. What's in you is God's. And God said, you're sitting on this. And as you sit on it, it's depreciating. And it only depreciates because you keep it locked away. But when you open it up, it will increase in its value. Thank you, Lord. The gift that God has in you, what he says is mine. What he says is his. He says you can't keep that to yourself because it has no value when you keep it to yourself. It's not worth anything when you don't share what I've given you. I don't care how heavy-hearted you are and how hurt you've been, but when it's in you, it is worth nothing. That's right. The battle of our what's in you is a heap of ruins. If I am someone that can offer in the kingdom and I say I'm not offering it because they hurt me and because of what they've done to me, I'm not giving it. God says it's depreciating. It's not worth anything. Open your heart and let me increase its value. That's not yours, it's mine. And when you give it to me, I will expand it. I heard last week, I heard Sister Latoya singing behind me, and it caught me off guard. Because everybody was saying, you didn't know she sang. And I was like, no, I didn't. I would see her singing, but I had never really heard her singing. But when I heard her belting out the harmony, I'm like, oh my God. And to me, it is a newfound treasure in someone that I had walked by every day and devalued what was in the person. Oh yeah, she's sweet, she's kind, she's loving, but there's something in there that says that there's a hidden treasure in you that's worth more than money. God says, now how do I get that out of you? And it's right there in the back row where you think that it would be up with the mic in your hand, but God says, I want that. Open your mouth and give me the most valuable. But God, nobody's here. It's only a few folk here. Open your mouth and give that to me. No, God, I'm waiting for all the people to show up. No, open your mouth right here with this empty room and give me what's mine. That's how I saw it. That God uses us at that opportunity where someone needs it and you say, no, I'm waiting for this conference size event to be able to share with someone. And God says, nope, I want you to give them the diamond. I want them, matter of fact, take out the chinaware and set it up for that one person. I know y'all know my mother would have the finest of china sitting in the cabinet, and it was only there for when special guests showed up. We couldn't eat off of it. We couldn't touch it. But it was when special guests showed up that she would pull it out. God says, y'all are like that. You have the best of you inside, hidden away, reserved for that special occasion. And he says, I'm special. The battle of I speaks to you. It speaks to me. And it says, what God has in you is for him. And I don't get to dictate when I get to use it. It says you open up and you render unto me what belongs to me.